Andrew McNeice, melodicrock.com. How you doing today?
I'm good, mate. How are you?
Great. When you first started Melodic Rock, was that 1997?
Yeah, during 96, I was visiting message boards and or whatever it was back then, these bulletin board type things, and just getting started, and web pages were just starting to be formed, and that was in mid-96, and by the end of 96 I had the first rough draft of the site online, yeah.
Oh, cool. Now,
long time ago.
Yeah, when you first started, even when we started, it's really, an experience, even us, you get first hardly no traffic, and then all of a sudden it explodes. When you started gaining more momentum each time, you put out more product and stuff like that, more news and interviews and whatever. Were you really excited, or what's up? What happened?
Oh, absolutely. Look, I just hoped that I started it with nothing in mind whatsoever, apart from the fact that I knew a few managers, knew a few musicians. I've been importing CDs for years for all my friends, so I had a basic idea of what was being released and where, because this is in the mid-90s where nothing was easy to find as far as good music. And I was on bulletin boards just answering questions about guys saying, hey, what happened to all my artists? Because media just dropped everybody in 92, 93, and you couldn't find out what was happening to any of these bands. And I thought, well, if I'm answering questions here, there must be other people that want to know. These bands just didn't disappear overnight. They just stopped being catered to overnight by these, arsehole trend-jumping media, like Rolling Stone and MTV and all that crap. So I started a page and thought, let's see what happens. I think I got about 20 hits, and then 50, and then 50 every day, and I was like, oh, there's 50 other people, and then there was 100, and then there was 200, and I started fishing for some interviews, and I was doing about 150, 200 hits a day, and I did a Journey interview, and with Jonathan Cain, and the Journey fans were quite, I think advanced as far as using the internet and what technology there was out there. So as soon as I did that interview, the word spread about my site, and, I went to 500 hits a day overnight, literally from, 150, 200 to 500 a day overnight. And that very quickly led to 1,000 a day overnight. And, in the last 5 or 6 years, pretty consistently been doing, near 20,000 a day. So, it just built slowly. The Journey thing is really what kicked it along to start with. And then my coverage of the whole Van Halen, what they were going through at the time, and, a few other bands were having troubles and I just happened to know the right people to get some news out there, and that, got my name established pretty early on, which was great.
Cool. Now, even with us, there's times I just want to say, I had enough. I've been doing our site about 7-8 years now, and, sometimes you have, good friends that slack off, if you want to say that, and, they got families too, and,
yeah.
They just said, is it really difficult to do almost everything yourself?
Oh, man, absolutely it is. It was a decision I took at the time. 2 reasons, probably 3 reasons, a few reasons, but one, I thought, I'm just doing this myself because it's just a hobby, a small thing I was doing. And once I got into the habit of doing the site and stuff, I felt comfortable doing it all myself. I didn't have to rely on anybody else, and, one of the reasons for me starting the site was I was writing in 95, 96, for a UK magazine. I was doing an Australian column on Japanese imports, because I was doing that for my friends and stuff here, and I was writing about that for this English magazine, and I was getting absolutely nothing for it. not that I expected to be paid, but the guys weren't even sending me a free copy of the magazine.
Right.
You know, not even one copy. And I'm thinking, why the hell am I doing this? And, you know, so I started the site. But at the same time, I thought, well, I don't want to ask other people to do work for me and then not get anything for it either, because I didn't want them to feel the same way I did. So it's just that's how I got started.
Uh-huh.
And, you know, once I just fell into the pattern of it, you know, people know me, my style, they know my reviewing style, and it just sort of stuck. And, you know, other sites and other magazines, obviously magazines have a considerable staff, but I don't have to do that with the internet. It's easy to do myself, and I get way behind at times with reviews and stuff. But people have come to, you know, understand and appreciate my style and how I write, and whether they agree with it or not, they still know where I stand. So things that I review, they know whether they'll like it or not. So just something I got comfortable with, and I stuck with it. And once, you know, the site started earning income from advertising and stuff, not that it was a great deal, you know, I couldn't rightly ask people to do things for me without getting paid, and I couldn't afford to pay them. So, you know, I just stuck with it, basically.
Cool. Now, before I was looking at the traffic on your site and stuff, and it breaks down, you know, different various countries, you know, what your site is actually doing, if it's true. And it looks like, you know, you're getting a real lot of respect from Germany.
It's definitely one of the bigger, one of the bigger countries, for sure. But if you want to break the site down really roughly, it's about 50% from the USA and Canada, and it's about 20% from Australia, Asia, and 30% from Europe, UK, Europe, and you know, Germany, UK, Sweden, Italy, France. They're all pretty big users of the site. But you know, I'll take the traffic from anywhere. It's just awesome to see that so many people from so many places. I've even got, you know, people coming in from the Czech Republic and Russia and China, India. It's amazing how far the reach goes, but that's the beauty of the internet, isn't it?
Oh yeah, definitely is. You know, because I think the magazines are basically gone. You know, I don't think, you know, you don't see that many heavy metal or rock or melodic rock or any kind of magazines coming out that often anymore.
Oh, absolutely. You know, when I first started, like I said, I was writing for a magazine, and, you know, I really love nothing more than having a magazine, holding it in my hands and reading it. But I thought I could start a magazine, but, you know, I live in the arse end of the world, and it just is absolutely not practical. I couldn't, you know, there's no competition down here to get a cheap price to manufacture anything. Then you know, for living in the arse end of the world, you've got to mail everything everywhere, and it was just cost prohibitive, and the internet was there, and that's the medium I chose, and, you know, that's the medium which took off and will continue to dominate. There's no going back, you know, and anything that can be digitized will be, and the original hard copy of anything, books, magazines, newspapers, music, it'll go, sadly. Because, you know, I'm an old school guy, but that's just the way it is.
Right. Now you also dabble in, you know, releasing material on a CD through Melodic Rock Records and stuff like that. And I mean, like you're breaking off into all different branches of stuff, but besides merchandising and stuff like that. How difficult is that for you just to like concentrate on so much stuff at one time?
Very hard. Very hard. I eat, sleep, and breathe it some days, and it does my head in at other times. You know, I get pretty exhausted. But you know, I'm a bit manic. I like a lot of things going on, and you know, I get there somehow.
Cool.
Probably why everything runs late. You know.
Right. Now, Melodic Rock Fest 3. Okay,
yeah.
We were at first one, we were at the second one, and now we're going to be at the third one. I mean, some of these bands, like, it's just unbelievable that you could get them there because they never played on U.S. soil, or it's just there's so many bands, and how difficult is it to get them under contract to actually play for you?
You know what? It's not that hard. What the guys want to play, and like you said, there's not that many opportunities for them to play. There's the bigger festivals that take on, the bands like Great White, Doc and Rat, and all that, every year, and tour circuits. But for the smaller bands, there's just nowhere for them to play. So the hardest thing to do is to get the infrastructure in place to put a show together. Get a venue, get the costs under control, because let's be honest here, we're playing to not too many people when you consider 20,000 people go to a Journey show or whatever. I mean, every single one of those people would appreciate all the bands at Melodic Rock Fest, but they just aren't known outside this cult circle, so you don't get the crowd.
Right.
So you've got to. The hardest thing is to try and budget a show on nobody turning up, and go from there and just hope that people do.
Right.
But the guys want to play. The guys, the bands want to play, and they jump at the opportunity, and you've just got to make it worth their while and try and pay their costs and just make the budget work.
Cool. Now, Friday night's an acoustic night, except Paul Bonrud is going to do a little electric set and stuff like that. You got Eric Martin, and you got Burtnick and Line of Fire. And I mean, there's so many good bands just to that opening day. How'd you decide on the lineup, the order of the bands that are going to play in what set?
Well, basically, with the lineup, I just, same with the first two shows, I just put together a show that I'd like to go and see. And, like the website itself, when I first started, I just put together I had to talk about things that I like and hope other people want to hear about it too. So I put together a lineup that I'd like to go and see, and hope that it just wouldn't be me and 13 other people at the show. I love Robert Tepper. Glenn Burtnick's one of my all-time idols. Eric Martin is just, a gem of a guy. And it's just, you put together the lineup how you think it's going to flow nicely, Right. And I think Line of Fire will do a great kick-off. The Radio Sun are some mates of mine here from Australia. And they said, you know what? Just make space for us. We'll fly there. We'll get there if you wouldn't mind having us on your show. And I'm like, well, any band that wants to make that kind of commitment, I'll find a spot for them. And Gary Shutt, he's just he's a one-man band. He's a phenomenon. He's just one of the most talented guys out there, and a criminal. That he's not, better known and a much more widely respected artist because he can do anything. We've got Robert Tepper and Glenn Burtnick from the 80s. It came together pretty nicely. Yeah, it was pretty easy.
Well, now Saturday night you got Harem Scarum, you got Wet. I'm excited about Wet. I love Jeff Scott and stuff like that, and Joe Vanna. Oh man, I just talked to Joe just recently, and he said, when you're out here, stop at my house. That's the kind of guy he is.
Joe's awesome. Yeah. When I was I went to Chicago. Well, the thing about this show, the first two shows didn't make me, didn't break even basically. The first one broke even, the second one lost a lot. So I tried to do this show a little bit differently, so I actually had the opportunity to go to Chicago in January and get my ass frozen off by that weather. But, my God, I don't know how people live in that. But anyway, and I put it to Joe that I was going to come over and do that, and he goes, well, stay with me, So I stayed with Joe that few days in Chicago, and we checked out some venues along with Richie from Seventh Heaven, who wanted me to come over and help me. He knew all the venues, of course, and took me around. So hell were we? The bands, yes. The band, Joe is just a phenomenal guy. And, I think just everybody on this bill is people I love working with, on the site and in day-to-day life and stuff. They just, this is a music business, there's some egotistical people out there, and there's some self-centered people out there, and there's some complete tools out there. But you just try and, you deal with them as little as possible and try and avoid them. When you put on a show like this, you just invite good people that are easy to work with and you love working with, and you know that the fans will love to see, and you know that these artists will love to see the fans, And Joe's one of the great guys. With her and Scarum, when I did my first show and we screwed up the whole visa thing, that was a disaster. I always had it in my mind that we've got to make this up to people in the USA one day. And, I put it to Harry about a year ago if I ever thought of doing another fest, would you consider Harem Scarum? And he said, yeah, talk to us at the time, anything's possible. And as it turns out that, a year later they were, thinking about coming back together anyway. And so they said, we're in, absolutely. So we've got the visa applications are underway, are doing everything by the book this time. The visa applications are in for them and Wet. And, with Jeff having a schedule conflict for the Melodic Rockfest 2 show, then I felt like I owed people for that screw-up as well. So this time round we've got no screw-ups. Everybody's schedules are free, and we've got, Wet will be there, Harem Scarum will be there. Mecca's is going to be phenomenal. You wait till you see the set list. We've got like a 90-minute set list. Which is unusual for the third band from the end. But I've got Fergie Friedrichsen coming in to do some stuff, and we've got Jimmy Jameson's going to join them and do some stuff, but not what you would expect. It's a little bit left of stand up for the diehards that know all the album tracks. We're going to make it a really interesting set list, and of course all the Mecca tracks that Fergie sang on with the first album, and Joe's going to be up there. Joe's just beaten, a thyroid cancer, scare, which was threatening to rob him of his voice, but he's just come out of surgery in the last couple of weeks, and they reckon he's going to be singing better than ever, so he's on top of the world, and that's going to be a great set.
Yeah, he's an amazing singer. I love that last album,
Right, absolutely. Not enough people got to hear, that's what frustrates me about this scene and this business. Not enough people get to hear these great albums. But
right, you also got to pull out Adrian Gale from Hibernation with Vic Rivera and Jamie Rowe. Was that John Kibble's doing?
Yeah, well, John, again, several months back, there was talk that hey, maybe we can do something, and when I mentioned the show to John, he said, you know what, I'd really like to help you with this show. I've got some ideas, and John's been fabulous, and, he's my man on the ground over there in the US, all the while doing this for me and helping out and making things happen. And Adrian Gale was one of those definite things that we wanted to, to make happen, because you can't have a Melodic Rock Fest without Vic there. And, people asked for Adrian Gale the first 2 times, and then they split. So, we'd make it possible this time. And the other one I'm really excited about, Steve Newman's coming over from the UK, and he's got his new album is one of his best ever. When that gets released, it's phenomenal. I've got it here. And so he's going to be showcasing that. And we've got Brett Walker, who I've been a fan of since I first started the site in the late 90s there. And he's putting together, he says he's got the best band he's ever worked with together, and they've already worked out the set list. So, and he's got a new album coming out, which is, again, harks right back to the best stuff he's done. So it's going to be a really good weekend.
Cool. Now, Sunday, you got, Ted Pauly, what can you say? The guy's amazing, fantastic frontman, good friend, and just all around good guy. Plus, you have House of Lords with James Christian, Jimmy Bell, and for a first time, Mickey Coldspell, a good friend of mine. I loved the last album, and all around. I mean, how could people pass up this show?
I don't know. I think, 30,000 people should be vying for tickets now, and I should be selling them on eBay to the highest bidder,
Yeah.
But, that's not the reality of it, unfortunately, but you just got to keep plugging away and hope that people like the look of the lineup and what's on offer, and maybe they know a couple of names. But the big thing that I took away from the first two shows were that people knew half the bands but not the other half, but went away a fan of all of them.
Right.
Because everybody brought their A game for the last two shows, and the first Melodic Rock Fest was only 7 bands, I think, but the last one was like 20, and you couldn't pick a week band from the weekend. Everybody loved different bands for different reasons, and they all brought their A game, and it's going to be the same this time around.
Wow.
I mixed up a little bit of, some familiar faces from the last two shows, because Ted never forgave me for not inviting him to the first one, which I did invite him. He was just busy, we couldn't do it.
Uh-huh.
I say that in jest. I I can't do a show without him, so he wanted to be there. Steve Jerry's going to be great. House of Lords is one band that I couldn't get for the first two shows just because of scheduling and stuff, and Eclipse was the same situation as Wet. I had to cancel them last time around, so make up for that now. And Bombay Black, just great guys. Cold Spell, I love, and I haven't met personally at all, but I love dealing with them. They're great musicians. And then we've got some new bands, we've got Evolution Eden and the Radio Sun and Crossing Rubicon and Love Blast, Inner Siege, Crossing Rubicon. It's vital that these new bands get to play in front of a crowd,
Right, definitely.
So I think people will go away fans of all these guys, and that's good for them, it's good for us, it's good for the scene,
Definitely. Now, how can people get tickets?
Well, if you're hooked up with PayPal, you can just go to melodicrockfest.com, and the tickets for Friday, Saturday, Sunday are there individually, available. Or if you want to use a credit card and get tickets printed out and sent to you instantly, you can go to homebarchicago.com and go through their ticket web broker and pay with your credit card. And I might just add that anybody that does buy tickets now will get them sent out instantly. They're all printed already. They're sitting there in the USA to get mailed out as soon as anybody orders tickets, so you'll have them in your hand within a few days of ordering. Just consider what a great weekend it's going to be. It's not only seeing bands, but we're going to have, we've got vendors there. We're going to have a ton of CDs available. We're going to have a couple of CDs that are exclusively released for the occasion. It's in a beautiful bar. The home bar is just phenomenal. There's a sports bar out front to sit and hang and eat and drink, and then you come into the back room, which is, it sounds small, back room, but the back room is absolutely gigantic, where the festival will be, and they'll have vendors in there, and there's 2 bars in there, and a cocktail bar, and lounges, and TV screens for videos in between bands. It's just going to be a great weekend of great music and really great people. I know so many people that made good friends at the first 2 shows just from hanging out. It's just great to hang out with like-minded people that love this music as much as you and I do, Brian.
Oh, definitely. And that's September 27th, 28th, and 29th in Chicago. Make sure everybody gets tickets because the last 2 were phenomenal shows. Rockeyez was there with my staff, and Andrew, always treated us like gold and just as a good guy.
Thanks, mate.
What more can I say? I had a great time.
Yeah, well, that's the whole point. Everybody's got to feel welcome. Everybody's got to have a great time. And, I had a blast talking to everybody, putting names to faces and stuff. And it's just great. I mean, this is one of the highlights of my life, the last, the 2 weekends that we did this before. I can't wait for the 3rd one.
Cool. Thanks very much, Andrew. I appreciate you talking to me.
Hey, Brian, I appreciate your help and your coverage and your support, mate.
You always helped us, and I just hope I could return the favor sometime.
You bet.
Thanks a lot, man.
All right, Brian. Cheers, mate.
Bye-bye.
Bye. How's that sound, mate?
Sound great. I'll before I even post it, I'll let you listen to it to see if you think it's okay to go.
Yeah, I'm fine with it. I didn't say anything stupid.
No. It sounded good. I just gotta fix up the sound quality a little bit, but otherwise everything was really good.
Great stuff.
I'm very happy with it. I'm glad that, we really covered Melodic Rock Fest 3 pretty well, I think. And I think
absolutely.
Hopefully it'll help ticket sales as much as possible.
I hope so, mate. I appreciate it. We're going to get it up there. More for the fact that it's just, for the bands to play in front of a crowd. It's just good for them.
Cool. Well, I definitely thank you, man. You always helped us, even from our beginning. Like you were talking, we had 25 hits, and I was like, "Oh shit, this sucks," And then like you said, you see the next week 50 and 100, and it just keeps on going. And I mean, we do have the months where it goes down, it dips a little bit, but I guess people are on vacation or whatever, But I guess that's part of it. I mean, I still.
It's frustrating, mate. There's a lot of it frustrating, but there's reward there.
Definitely. So yeah, thanks a lot, man. I appreciate it.
All right, mate. Anything else? Give me a shout.
No problem. I can't wait to get
Thanks,
there.
Brian.
Bye-bye.
Me too, mate. Me too.
Bye-bye.
Cheers. Bye.